I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in the Season 2 finale of the Loki series. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney+, check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from the Season 2 finale of the Loki series, it's Rico!
Glorious purpose.
Glorious purpose!
Yes.
So, finale?
Finale.
Like, I feel like...
Finale of finales.
I keep saying Season 2 finale because it was the Season 2 finale, but this might be the series finale. Like,
could very well be.
That was a really good bookend. Also, just want to say, I wasn't not smart enough to think of this, but after watching some videos, same title as episode 1, so it's bookend.
Yep, closes the loop.
Yeah, so Chet, like season 2 episode or season 1 episode 1 was Glorious Purpose, and season 2 finale is Glorious Purpose. So it's close the book on that one. So I look. I said it last week. I'm not ready to let go of this series. Like I've enjoyed both seasons of this series, and especially after season 2 finale. Like I'm gonna miss all of these characters. Like I'm gonna miss this. Like this was really good. But kicking it right off the bat, I just have to say, like one of my favorite parts of like the beginning of this, because I feel like we got so many emotions in this finale, like in a good way. Like it was ups and downs and like super dramatic, but also had like moments of like really funny, just like little things there. And I mean, we both said it last week, like we were expecting Groundhog's Day, and we got it immediately. We got it. And like, it was perfect. And just having Loki just go through the same events, like just jumping back by like, minutes and like increase it a couple more minutes back, and just saying again. I loved, having these tiny moments of comedy in a very emotional finale. Like we got highest highs, lowest low, like everything in this finale, but just having those moments peppered in of comedy, I thought were perfect, like little notes of this finale. And there's so much to discuss about this. And look, we may even be able to do another video after we've kind of, had some time to reflect on this, and maybe we'll do like a part 2 of the Loki season 2 finale. But before I get too far ahead of myself, Rico, what were some of your instant reactions from the season 2 finale?
Yeah, this was a pretty epic finale, if I do say so myself. It really is the culmination of like this long story arc with Loki going all the way back to when we first saw him back in the first Loki movie, or even going really the Avengers, because that's where like his whole story kicks off in the show, right? Going from being the MCU's greatest villain basically to ultimately its greatest hero, and what ends up being like this big story moment for him at the end of the episode. But what, yeah, we can talk all day about like all the big moments that happen later on in the episode. But one of the things I actually really did like about this when the episode first started is how it started the fanfare going backwards. You see the logo of Marvel Studios in the green Loki style, but then you start seeing it go backwards, and you're seeing like the classic moments go in through the letters like it does usually in the other order, right?
Right.
And I thought that was a really cool way to kind of like set the tone for what the episode was going to end up actually being. Because the whole episode is just Loki going backwards in time, trying to right his wrongs, right? So yeah, I just thought that was a really cool way of kind of foreshadowing what the episode itself was going to be about. But really, one of the things I loved about this episode the most was just getting to see Loki and He Who Remains kind of go one on one together again, and just kind of
Yeah.
seeing one. I keep saying this in these last few episodes, but Jonathan Majors has put on some really fun performances in these appearances that he's had, and he's got to be like a few different versions of the character, which is really cool. So his Victor Timely stuff has been really fun, and now getting them kind of see to revisit like that classic scene from the first season finale of with He Who Remains was also really, really cool. And just kind of seeing the way that they kind of orchestrate all that was really fun in and of itself. But yeah, this is going to be a finale that we're going to be talking about for a while for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to your point, we were talking about this earlier, and it kind of works out. It settles the debate. Victor Timely was actually, a decent variant. Like,
Mhm.
there were a lot of like theories out there that, Victor Timely was kind of onto the plan of He Who Remains, and was kind of in on it all along, type of thing. But yeah, I mean, after all of the redos, after all of the kind of longer scenes when the loom was, no matter what, destined to fail, type of thing, we really did see, Victor Timely was a decent dude after all, like, type of thing. And so maybe that's why on the original main timeline, sacred timeline, he wasn't supposed to get the book or anything, type of thing. Like, as we see in the episode where Miss Minutes and Ravonna give him the book or drop the book in his window, it immediately then forms the branch timeline where he
Mhm.
becomes Victor Timely. So I'm really curious, what he now becomes on the I guess one of the regular timelines, or at least it's going to be very hard now because we have infinite branch timelines. But I'm curious to find out who Victor Timely becomes, being able to just live out like like
Life.
his
Yeah.
normal life, no interference, type of thing, I guess. But you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off big takeaways? There's so much to talk about. I can't wait.
Yeah, this is a pretty big moment. I thought was really cool. So, we have Loki going through all of his, his do-overs basically, and he's not finding the solution that he needs to find that's gonna, make everybody happy. Essentially, there is no solution that's gonna make everybody happy, he realizes. And what he does is actually like, it all kind of likens back into that episode 5 month from last season where Richard E. Grant's version of Loki, the older Loki, kind of gives them he foreshadows this whole moment basically with his glorious purpose moment. Loki finds his glorious purpose moment here when he realizes that like Timely is not gonna be the one who's gonna get the job done when he finally launches the thing into the loom and it just completely rejects it. And he's like, okay, I gotta be the god here. He does it. The one thing I was waiting for in this whole show, like this whole season, was really getting to see Loki be like God Loki because it just kind of seemed like I was watching Loki in a suit be a detective. Every now and then he would shoot some green balls at people, but I wanted to see him do some real God shit, right? And did we get that moment here. I really love the way like as he's stepping out, we get to see like that cool outfit reveal and his helmet
Yeah.
comes out. I think it's really well done. That the series have done a really good job of like doing that last episode suit reveal like I remember in WandaVision, we got to see her in her Scarlet Witch outfit for like we're getting to see these characters in like their true form finally.
Yeah.
Not just kind of like their MCU stylized version. We're getting to see like kind of this true nod to the comic version. And so yeah, and then we also kind of get to see like a little bit. They almost look like the shape of his face kind of changes a little bit when he's kind of doing that too. Like he kind of
Yeah.
turns older in face. I don't know if that's just the way Tom Hiddleston can make his face look in that scene in particular. But as he kind of does like his glorious purpose moment, boom, we see him grab out to the branches of the dead timeline and kind of create like this basically like this we say Yggdrasil is like the tree of life in Norse mythology, right? He basically makes like his own version of that, but with a multiverse that can actually withhold and not die. So it was really cool to see him kind of fulfill his glorious purpose in this great way. And also have this great moment of goodbye with his friends too. I thought that was also a great moment. Really well done by Tom Hiddleston. I think this is like this episode alone, he kind of deserves some Emmy nods. I feel like because he put in a really fantastic performance. I feel like.
Yeah. absolutely incredible performance in this episode. I mean, in the entire series, but yeah, especially this episode. And I just have to say, I might have not been 100% right, but I was over, 75% right about what ended up happening, in the finale type of thing. I just have to say this from last episode.
Yeah.
I said, we were gonna get a bunch of do-over moments type of thing, and then eventually, more than likely, what was going to happen was Loki was going to figure out that he cannot put everything perfect, and there was going to have to be a sacrifice. Something was going to have to be wrong, type of thing.
Yes, and he ultimately gets his throne. As and not as the god of mischief, but as the god of stories, which I think is a really cool. It's a really cool version of Loki from the comics, and I think it's going to be a really cool version of Loki you can go to in the movies too. However long Tom wants to do the role, of course, because if you wanted to say this is going to be the end for Tom Hiddleston as Loki, as just kind of like the guardian of stories, that would be one thing in and of itself. But yeah, I just think it's a really cool direction to take the character.
Yeah, exactly. And so I didn't even remember this, and you started to kind of get into it in the beginning. But exactly what Loki says right as he's going out into like towards the loom to destroy the loom, he says the same words that he said to Odin at the end of the first Thor movie.
For you! For all of us!
For all of us.
Sylvie says, "No, Loki," and that's the same words that Odin says. So it's literally a mirror of like what Loki says in that. It's in
in different contexts too, which is cool.
An entire full circle arc for him.
Yep.
Literally repeats the same words that he started his villain arc with, and then begins basically his hero arc type of thing. Like, or fulfills his hero arc type of thing. So it's like full circle. I just thought when I saw those two scenes back to back, because somebody put them like right next to each other, perfect.
It really might be the single greatest like character arc in the MCU to date, because it was fleshed out a lot longer than, and like I would say the other choice would be Tony Stark, of course, but I would say it's fleshed out a lot more than that one, especially over a lot more appearances, and the fact that he got this whole series to really like kind of get this almost like a love letter to all of his performances in the past too, which is, it was just really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing I wanted to bring up. I really did like seeing the moments that we got to see Loki relive from season one, and just just going along. It was almost like a greatest hits tour type of thing, because he was just like the scene would start and it would be from season one, and then all of a sudden you'd see him like slip into that place, like the first, like I loved when he's talking to Mobius, and Mobius just knows him like it's first episode of season one.
Yeah, the first interrogation. Yeah,
and he's like saying everything that Mobius is going to say to him, everything Mobius is going to show to him. Like, oh, it was great. And and the whole scene with him and He Who Remains, and I loved that we got that one little thing to show that Loki still had an upper hand.
And what makes you think this is the first time we've had this conversation?
I just loved that, like back and forth, and just him showing that now he's got a couple things up his sleeve still, type of thing. I just, it was
really well edited.
Yeah, so good, so good. There's so many little details that I loved about this finale, and I loved about this season. But it's I can't say enough how much I enjoyed this, and I really hope this isn't like. I get it. It's a great send-off for Loki, and he's fulfilling his hero arc. He is now, he gets his throne, just like you said, and showed true sacrifice for his loved ones and his friends and everything like that. I really hope this isn't the last we get of Tom Hiddleston's portrayal of the character. I would love still and I'm still hoping for this, that Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars has moments where Loki has to pull together a team of multiverse Avengers type of thing. I just really
or they're gonna have to go to him and however they can get to him, or he's gonna have to make himself known in that form, or whether he becomes somewhat acquainted with the Watcher would be pretty cool.
Yeah. something
feel
like
we're
that.
going into prediction territory too.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, you want to get to some predictions?
Just do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick off predictions more with a question because actually 2 questions. I'm very curious about a couple of things. First one is, we have a lot of rumors about the plot of Deadpool 3 and how it's going to be a very important movie in the multiverse saga type of thing. Like, it's going to be a big movie leading into King Dynasty and Secret Wars and stuff like that. One of the bigger rumors is that the TVA and more specifically Mobius are going to be involved in some points of Deadpool 3's plot. So I'm very interested. I'm not confused. I'm interested to see, because it sounded like at the end of the finale that Mobius was either taking time off or he was leaving the TVA entirely.
Right.
And so for him to be back in the TVA or working with the TVA again for Deadpool 3, I'm just a little confused about. I'm curious, I guess.
I think he's going to be in one of those, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in type deals. Because it's one of those things where, I'm leaving, but B-15 does say, you won't come back. There's a seat.
You always have a seat, yeah.
You have a seat in the war room, automatically. So, he's always going to have, a spot to play in the story, whether he wants to or not, or whether he wants to, or Owen Wilson wants to come back, of course, which I'm sure he does have a role in something like Deadpool 3. It would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So the next thing that I'm very interested about that I wanted to bring up, and we were both talking about this ahead of time, and it's funny because we didn't catch it immediately following, because we talked right after we both watched, and it wasn't something we talked about immediately.
Yeah.
But
I caught this though.
Oh, I didn't catch it immediately. It was more of me thinking about and writing stuff down on the rundown for today. But at the end of the finale, towards the end of the finale, before Mobius leaves the TVA, he is talking with Hunter B-15, and they're talking about, basically the new job of the TVA is to keep the multiverse, intact, but also to search the multiverse for potential King variant threats.
Yeah, it's basically the complete opposite of what they were doing before. Instead of looking for regular anomalies, they're looking for just Kangs.
Right. And so they're talking about some of them, and they mention one, and it to the effect of, I don't know the exact wording of it was, but to the effect was, they're talking about a variant who created a stir in a 616 adjacent branch, but they were able to deal with him on their own, so they don't have to worry about him. So obviously that sounds like Ant-Man 3, Ant-Man Quantumania. But does that mean that the events of Ant-Man Quantumania didn't take place on the main MCU timeline that we've been following all of this time? That Endgame was on and everything was on?
I think it did. It's just that it took place in the quantum realm, so it didn't exactly take place within that specific, because the quantum realm itself is a different place in time and space too. So that's why it's adjacent to the 616 universe. That's what I would think.
I mean, I that makes sense. But
I thought it was going to be more of the question is this or 616, or is it 199999 or whatever, because the Kamala Khan actress has always said that, and
she's always said that.
It's always been that little public argument that they have,
right.
But they always say that Feige's been pretty adamant that it's 616.
Right. And even in the new book that came out, the Marvel Cinematic Universe book that looks really awesome, and I want to get if I ever have spare money, because it looks very nice. It's a hardbound book. It says in there that the main MCU is 616, designated 616.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I think it's referring to the events of Ant-Man, but because it took place in the quantum realm, because it didn't really affect the main world, the normal world itself. I think that's what they meant.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because for me, I was like, so if Quantumania took place on a branch timeline, what's going on with all of it? I started falling down rabbit holes, and I was just thinking
it's easy to, man. It's easy to, for sure.
Especially with, how crazy the multiverse goes from here, basically. you know what I mean? All of these branches, infinite branches. And that's the reason that the Loom failed in the first place, is because, they were trying to expand it to accept more timelines, but the timelines are expanding infinitely out. So there's no way that they can measure something that can possibly expand infinite, because they're expanding infinite. So we're going to have so much more content for activities moving forward type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
At least until we put a bookend on the multiversal saga. Like, I guess at that point, we're just going to concentrate again on a single timeline after that. Like, when we get to the end of this,
Well, who knows?
I don't know. But anyway, I could go forever on this. What are some predictions that you have moving forward after this finale?
Yeah, there's a few things I thought about. One, TVA Guidebook Volume 2 is out. Go get your pre-order. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool they introduced that. We were kind of talking a little bit about this before we started recording. Kind of like the need to make one in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I thought they're kind of a cool. Well, the most logical reason for me for them to make it was because this is a new version of the TVA just in general, because the first one was under like the regime of He Who Remains. It'd be just probably best to throw that old handbook out and just start with something new anyway, and kind of fix all the mistakes that were kind of made with that first version of the TVA. So I do think that's a cool way of establishing like how the TVA is going to move forward from this whole the fiasco of season 2, I would say. Also, what the hell is going to happen with Ravonna? We only get to see her at the very end in the void. That that's exactly where I expected to see her. We see a little shots. We don't get as many Easter eggs in the void. We only get a couple of shots of like going around her. We see a pyramid behind her, which I guess is a nod to maybe the Ramatut version of Kang, if I had to guess. But we only get to see Alioth being hinted at from off screen. As the actress has had some purple lights in her face and all that. But yeah, I was part of me was a little bummed because like the last few weeks I've been saying I wanted to see Ravonna, kind of interact with Alioth, and I only get the tease of it. But I don't know if that's supposed to imply that she's gonna get eaten up by Alioth, be consumed like everything else does over there, or if she's gonna find some way to weasel her way out of this situation. I have to imagine that to some degree all of our characters are gonna show up in different projects throughout the MCU, of course, like we mentioned, Deadpool 3 probably being the most logical, being that it has to do with like time and space stuff. But yeah, I do. That's one thing I'm very interested to see how like some of these characters are gonna show up in the future. But also now that you have Loki, the god of stories, sitting there. I do love that ending shot of him kind of like, with this happy look on his face as he looks over what I presume is him looking over Mobius on like this branch of a timeline that he gets to, go to. And so that's a great little happy ending moment. But also I think it's a cool way where you can kind of like introduce stories through Loki in a sense where he can be like this narrator for these multiversal stories, almost like a watcher.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It sounds a lot like a watch. Yeah. Maybe if you did something with like What If, where it's like you'd have like this like bickering narrator type thing as Loki and the Watcher. I think you can have some fun with that. But yeah, again, like we were saying, I'm really excited to see what his overall future in the MCU is going to be. I have to imagine Kang Dynasty is going to be where we see Loki pop up next, given how much he's tied to other Kang variants, and of course the introduction of the character itself. But yeah, there is a ton to look forward to when it comes to the future of what this story set up.
Yeah, when you mentioned Ravonna, it just reminded me of the really quick scene when Loki's time slipping back to past moments, and he runs in.
We're at Miss Minutes. I know right now you're hurt and you're angry, but we need your help in finishing the throughput multiplier fast.
I know you're really angry, Miss Minutes. I know you're really angry.
Oh yeah, and she's just stood there like what? Yeah, that was a really funny way. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that there was like I'm literally just remembering little bits and pieces of it still now, even
There's
now.
a lot of really great moments in that episode.
So many
also,
awesome.
Miss Minutes is technically completely rebooted, so she's
back.
she's back with like just like keep an eye on her. That's kind of like keep an eye on her status.
Yeah, it's all in the eyes. You just have to watch your eyes when they go crazy. It's the
She
same
would
thing
be
with
funny in Deadpool 3.
maybe that's how we get some appearances of TVA members.
There we go.
But yeah, I mean, look, this finale gave so much. It went so hard. Like I can't wait to like still kind of see how like this reverberates through the MCU and other projects and stuff like that, and what it means, like kind of moving forward. Like I want to look back after, maybe even years from now when we put a bookend on the multiversal saga type of thing, and we actually move to another phase. I would like to see kind of what all of this kind of meant in the grander scheme of things, because it was so good. It gave us so many things to really, connect dots with, hopefully with bigger things like Kane Dynasty and Secret Wars and stuff like that. So man, I just, it was so good. And like I was saying throughout this, maybe we do a like a part 2 of the finale recap type of thing, if we start seeing some of these connections in other projects, and we can kind of, revisit some of this and kind of see like, oh shit, that did connect with this, like from Deadpool 3 type of thing. So it might be interesting to kind of, just see if all of these breadcrumbs have little pieces to lead to in the future.
Sure.
But as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of the season 2 finale? And is this the last we're going to see of Tom Hiddleston's Loki? I really hope not. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.